I'm warning you, I'm a lethal killing machine. It was a secret government experiment. They did stuff to me. Spooky stuff. Anal stuff. It turned me into a dangerous telekinetic. As the ancient Tibetan philosophy states, don't start none, won't be none. Welcome to Couch Potato Theater here on the Fandom Podcast Network. On Couch Potato Theater, we celebrate our favorite movies. My name is Kevin, and I am happy to introduce The Losers 2010. We will be discussing this movie. We're very excited. But first, before I can go further, I got to bring on my brother from another mother, co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network. Let's welcome Mr. Kyle Wagner. What's going on, buddy?
A singer in a smoky room. The smell of wine and cheap perfume. Yes, it is The Losers, and this is the podcast all about the angle of the dangle, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, you went there. Kyle, before we bring on our other guests for this was your idea, and I have to be honest with you. I've always liked this movie, but it'd been a while since I watched it, and I forgot how much fun this movie is.
I love this movie. This is probably easily in my top 10 to 15 movies for so many reasons. One, great movie. It's just fun. It's got a great runtime. It's about an hour and 40 minutes, maybe even a little less than that. And it's one of the best movies ever with the cast before they became the cast movies of all time. And you know what? It's like I said, it's just fun. It's based. There's so many things with this movie, and we'll discuss it in the thing, but it's a cast that hasn't quite hit its mark, except maybe one of the cast members as far as being big on the screen. And it was also when the start of comic book movies before the MCU really hit, where people were just starting to jump on doing comic book movies. So many fun things, and just one of the funnest movies I've ever seen, and just I love it. And I know we have a few other losers joining us for this podcast, Kevin.
Yes, let's welcome our fellow losers with us from the Time Warp podcast. One of my co-hosts, of course, is the queen of movie foo, Lacey. What's going on, Lacey?
Hello. Not a whole lot. Excited to talk about this. This is also in my top 10. Love this movie for a very long time. Lots of fun things to talk about, and I can't wait to get into it.
Oh, we got a lot of fun stuff coming up. And to round out our losers group here, I like to welcome my co-host of the Highlander Blood of Kings podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network, Mr. Lee Fillingsness. What's going on?
Well, first things first, your mama was a pirate. Second, if you had done this podcast without me, there would have been no forgiveness. I would have gone full on Idris Elba, stealing money from everybody. I love this movie.
Okay, well, that establishes a question I had. Who is the Rourke of our losers? Now we know it's Lee.
But I'm the charming one, and I'm the only one who can do a passable British accent. So, there we are.
Well, what's very interesting, what we're going to have a lot of fun with this podcast, guys, because we've done obviously a lot of Couch Potato Theaters, and we kind of teased our new categories with the recent show that we did. But before we do that, though, let's go ahead and tease what we have been doing here on Couch Potato Theater. Of course, we always have to throw out our April 8th Couch Potato Theater of Empire Records and Rex Manning Day. We released that, of course. That was a fun one to do. And recently, of course, we did Couch Potato Theater Payback, and we did our Valentine's Day one with Wimbledon, and we also did a crossover with Hair Metal Podcast. We did Rockstar. We also did Time Cop, and as I mentioned before, we did a special Roadhouse celebrating 35 years of Roadhouse, and we had co-star and special guest and friend of the podcast, Anthony DeLonges. And we teased some of those categories of Couch Potato Theater on there, but this time you're going to get a full dose of them. And just to tease, coming up next for Couch Potato Theater is The Mummy, 1999. Guys, remember The Mummy? That was a good movie.
I was about to be really upset because I thought you'd already done it, and I was like, no.
Yeah, I was about to beat wholesale ass on that one.
We might have a full boat for that one because we also got someone else dipping their toes in that too. So yeah, that's good to know. It's an exciting one. 1999 that came out. Looking forward to that. Well, guys, this is The Losers, and this one came out April 23rd, 2010. And like I said, Kyle, I was reminded of how much that I like this film. Lacey, go ahead and hold that up, actually. Because yeah, there you go. You got the Blu-ray. I've got the DVD back here, but I also picked up the Blu-ray combo in Australia just recently here that came with original digital copy. So check that out.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely a lot of fun, though. So let's get into the show here, guys. This is, of course, Couch Potato Theater, The Losers, came out in 2010. And this is the IMDb possibly vague and not always spot on plot description. It goes, a tale of double cross and revenge centered upon the members of an elite U.S. Special Forces unit sent into the Bolivian jungle on a secret and destroy mission. The team, Clay, Jensen, Roke, Pooch, and Cougar, find themselves the target of a lethal betrayal instigated from inside by a powerful enemy only known as Max. Presumed dead, the group makes plans to even the score when they are joined by a mysterious Aisha, a beautiful operative with her own agenda. Working together, they must remain deep undercover while tracking the heavily guarded Max, a ruthless man bent on embroiling the world in a new high-tech global war. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I think that's pretty spot on right there for IMDb. Sometimes they get it wrong. So yeah, but just quick little notes about it here. Release date, as I mentioned, was April 23rd, 2010. The filming dates were July 2009 through September 2009. Running time of 1 hour and 37 minutes. The budget was $25 million. Box office was only $29.9 million. However, added to this, it made over $8.2 million in DVD sales in the U.S. alone, giving it a minimum earning of $37.6 million. Question for you guys, and Lee, I'm going to start with you, sir. How did you watch this movie recently? In a movie theater, cinema, streaming, or physical media? Or when did you first see this film?
Well, I first saw it at the Southdale AMC here in town with my dad. Opening night, I saw it. I was a huge Jeffrey Dean Morgan fan after seeing The Watchmen. So I see this and I'm like, okay, this is going to be awesome. Walked out of the theater back when they were still doing the midnight premieres. Loved it. And I most recently watched this on streaming. I think it was Prime. But yeah, when you said that we were doing this, I just happened to be sitting on the couch. Figured I'll do my research right now and pretend it's work.
Lacey, what about you? How'd you watch it recently, and where'd you originally see it?
Recently, I watched it on the big screen. I house sat for my parents, and so I got to see it on their big, huge basement TV, which I tried to emulate with my system. So it was really nice, big, huge, pretty, loud, lots of shaking of the room. And when I first saw it, actually, I had just stopped working in movie theaters, but I still had a friend who was a manager over it. She still works there, so I don't want to get her in trouble. But we used to do late night shenanigans and mischief, where I would show up at about 2:00 in the morning after.
Oh, you did the secret employee viewings. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we used to do double features anytime something was coming out. So I got to see it about three weeks early, probably. And then we liked it so much that we actually did it a couple more times before the movie came out. And then when I saw it, as soon as it came out, I saw it more. So I saw this a bunch of times. It was really fun.
Kyle, what about you?
Well, I saw this in the theater opening day. I was excited for this movie. I was familiar with the comic. I was all in for this, and I actually think I saw it about 2 or 3 times in the theater. I liked it that much, and then this is something that's in my regular rotation. Usually, it gets watched at least once a year. So my most recent one, I have it on iTunes. Watched it on iTunes, and just thoroughly enjoyed it, as I always do.
I saw it in the theater as well. Lee, when you mentioned when they were doing the midnight screenings, they were still doing that at this time. They didn't do the early Thursday, preview shows, which now start as early as 3:00, sometimes earlier now, which I love, by the way. I don't remember if I saw the midnight showing, but I know I saw it in the theater on opening weekend, probably opening day, and I think I did also see it more than once. Really, really enjoyed it. Zoe Saldaña, of course, was coming off the previous year of Avatar and Star Trek 2009. And it just had a really good cast. So I was all over it. I was really, really excited about it. Recently watched it. Of course, I had it on Blu-ray, but I have it on digital as well. It's one of those I got to have in all formats. Kyle, I just want to go to you real quick again. You had touched at the top of the show about this was your film. We were discussing, what couch potato theaters to do, and you're like, I really need to do that. What was it about this film that you decided I needed to do this now and basically leapfrog this list of couch potato theaters that we had listed?
One, it's been one I've wanted to do on couch potato theater for a while. Two, it is the definition of a couch potato theater film. There's not a point where you can't jump into this movie and get pulled right into it because of the snappy dialogue, the great action scenes. You've got an over-the-top villain, which is just absolutely great. And it's the cast. I mean, you take somebody who is a little bit younger and they're seeing this cast on the screen, they're going, oh my God, this movie must have been a huge success, not realizing the history behind it or something like that, just by seeing the cast alone in it. And so it's just one of those movies that's everything that a couch potato theater movie is. It is, Kevin, it meets one of your biggest requirements. I think this is one of the most highly rewatchable films I've ever seen.
Absolutely.
And I just across the board. And for me, at the end of the day, it's just so much fun. It's a fun cast. You can tell they're enjoying themselves. And there's nothing.
Lee, I think you insinuated bodily harm if I didn't get you in on this podcast. Why?
I just love this movie so much. Coming from the comic book background, it was part of a spate of lesser known comic book movies being made. This one,
Lee, you're breaking up there, man.
Running Scared, the Paul Walker one, were my two favorite of this series.
Lee, hold on. You're having a little bit of audio problem there. Do me a favor and just double check on
Port of Los Angeles docks.
Wait, Lee, can you hear us? You're having a little bit of audio problem here. Go ahead and check that for me. Sorry. Lacey, this is obviously a rewatchable for you. Before we started recording, you were saying that this is rising high in your top films.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where I watch it and immediately I'm like, this is in my top 10. This is fantastic. I love it. And then inevitably I forget to put it on my list. And then it kind of falls away. And then anytime someone mentions any of the actors, I'm like, yeah, but have you seen The Losers? Because everyone knows JDM from, Walking Dead now. I mean, he's been in a million things, but people are like, oh, have you seen it? Yes. And then, people talk about Chris Evans is Captain America, and I'm like, yeah, but have you seen this little movie from 2010? And so anytime, people are like, oh, I love Zoe Saldaña. I'm like, yeah, but you got to see this. She kicks ass in this one movie. And so it's one of those ones that every time I talk about it, I'm like, I can't get out of my head until I watch it again. If I bring it up, I have to go back and watch. It's one of those ones. It's kind of like Boondock Saints for me. When I tell somebody about it and I sit them down and make them have them watch it, I've never had anyone say, everyone's always like, oh, this is so amazing. So it's one of the few. There's 3 or 4 out there that anytime I recommend it to someone, no matter who the person is, they're always like, yeah, I'm in. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Let's see if Lee's back here. Lee, you back with us here? There seems to be a delay in your audio there. Just double check with us there.
Sorry, yes, sir, I am.
So.
There is a delay, so let's be careful of that.
Yeah, I wanted having some internet issues.
Yeah. I wanted to give you a chance to talk about this film and why it meant a lot to you.
It's just one of the great comic book adaptations. They did a really good job of bringing the comic to life. It was part of a series that I think elevated the adaptations more than the MCU did. This one, Running Scared with Paul Walker, was another great one.
I forgot about that one.
It's coming, like I mentioned earlier, on the tail of Watchmen. So some really good. And, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, fantastic. This is one that really solidified me as a fan long before he was Negan. But it was quite something. And I will say that this is basically the same plot as A-Team and a much better movie. And it came out the same year.
Interesting. We're going to be bringing up A-Team soon. I'm glad you brought that up. Let's get into the main part of the movie discussion here, guys. As you had just said, Lee, this was based on a comic book, a graphic novel series by Vertigo. The Losers, the comic book series, written by Andy Diggle and illustrated by Jock, and published by Vertigo imprint of DC Comics. It ran for 32 issues from August 2003 through March 2006. Kyle, were you familiar with this this comic book series at all? Because I was not.
Yeah, I was. It was really starting to get a bit of a following. Vertigo Books, which is at the time has always been DC's kind of more adult brand, they always get a special attention. And this was kind of at a time when you were starting to see some other things come out, people taking things. Andy Diggle was a fairly known name. People were interested in that. And it had a little bit of a different art style. I think that's kind of what maybe initially turned me off of the comic. I wasn't a big fan of the art style that they necessarily went with, but the story was so good. It was something I went back and reread in graphic novel format. And I will say this is definitely one of the better comic book to movie adaptations. And it's one of those kind that play off well to do that. And, again, this is at the time where we're not at that comic book movie boom yet. The MCU hadn't hit yet. We were just kind of getting it. We knew Chris Evans at the time this came out was going to be Captain America, but yeah, we weren't there yet. And I would be really curious. This is one of those movies, and we'll talk about it too a little bit later. I feel like if this comes out, like somebody holds this and releases it like 2 years later, this movie is huge at the box office.
It's a good point. We're going to talk about that. Lee, I wanted to go back to you because you had talked about the adaptation, the true adaptation that you felt that this movie did. Did you read the comics?
I read a few of them. They're kind of hard to come by out here, but I remember seeing when they first hit the shelves. I do the drop Tuesdays and Wednesdays at my local comic shop to kind of get all the new stuff. I remember Bjorn, the guy running the desk, was telling me about this one. Tried to get into it. I was kind of getting out of comics at the same time, but I really did like the look of this. And like even in the frame that you put up on screen here, you can see the comic style that they brought to the movie. Like in every frame, it's not just a normal set. They've always got some big saturation. They've got beautiful rooms, beautiful places to be. Like they composed this like artists rather than just finding random locations that fit. Every
Right.
frame of this was well produced, just like every frame of a comic book like has to have a purpose.
Lacey, were you familiar with the comic book series at all?
Yeah, I actually I had seen it, on a shelf at a friend of mine's house, and I kind of flipped through it or whatever. It was more of a I think everyone's kind of right. The art really didn't grab me. It wasn't really the style that I was used to, and so at that point, I was still trying to catch up on so many other comic books that I just didn't want to take on a new one. But I definitely.
But you were familiar with it, though.
Yeah, I remembered.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. I didn't read it, but I knew.
That's all right. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
See, for me, I mean, I dabbled in comics, but I was not familiar with this. I just thought it was just a new action movie, and then when I found out about it, I was like, "Oh, that's cool." I'm glad they got the sources here. And as Kyle mentioned earlier, of course, we had this came out in 2010. We had Iron Man come out in 2008. Those are obviously based on comics, but like the comic book movie, onslaught really hadn't started yet. They dabbled in some stuff, of course, but yeah, this is when things really kind of started to get interesting. And obviously we had the Watchmen, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. But I came across an article, guys, that I wanted to touch on you guys, because this is actually a recent article. This came out last year. This came out September 25th, 2023. It's a Screen Rant article by Colin McCormick and Cooper Hood. Why was there never a sequel to The Losers? And I wanted to make sure that we touched on this, guys, because this is one of the biggest questions about this movie. The main reason why The Losers, according to this article, sequel never happened is clearly the poor Warner Brothers reportedly agreed to spend $25 million to make this comic book movie, and which usually means it needs to make anywhere between $75 to $100 million to turn a profit. The Losers crashed and burned at the box office, though. It only made $29 million. And it had a limited international release, as it never made it to China, Japan, and other major international markets, since The Losers barely made more than its budget. It's no surprise that Warner Brothers wasn't eager to make another. Star Jeffrey Dean Morgan had since come out in an interview with Fandom and blamed the movies on Warner Brothers and the marketing campaign. But looking back at the film's marketing, The Losers trailers heavily focused on the film's action and comedy, which is a good representation. What might have hurt The Losers even more, this is interesting, guys, was that the competition it faced at the box office. WB's Clash of the Titans movie was the bigger blockbuster release at the time, with the MCU's Phase 1 movie Iron Man 2 coming out shortly after. The Losers, it also likely didn't help that the movie was repeatedly compared to The A-Team, which had a reboot launch later that summer that performed well. Lee, I want to go back to you on this here because you brought it up. This was obviously a better movie than The A-Team, but people didn't know that. The general audience didn't know this was based on a comic book series, and the fact that it looked like an A-Team ripoff might have hurt it as well. Your thoughts?
Definitely, and I think every so often you just have like two movies come out that are the same. Dante's Peak and Volcano, that kind of thing. It just happens. I think that this was a more original setup, definitely a more dynamic team. With the A-Team reboot, you're really locked into what they were saying about the original characters back in the 80s that we all grew up on. You couldn't really have any variation from what a BA or a Murdoch is, and while it was a fun and serviceable movie, there wasn't really any surprise with that one. With this one, you can have a member of the team betray everybody. You can have, all this stuff going on. And I think we've got an overall better villain in Jason Patric, who for the first time ever is funny. They even, when he hosted Saturday Night Live back in the 90s, he's like, I don't know why I'm here. I'm not funny. That was his opening monologue. And he's absolutely hilarious in every scene of this. I think that this is a better canvas to start from. But I think that with the nostalgia and recognition that audiences had with A-Team, they're looking at this as a cash grab instead of a much better version of the same kind of movie. And A-Team isn't exactly unique. I mean, you have Force 10 from Navarone, Dirty Dozen. I mean, criminal special forces units, that's old hat. That's not even copying it isn't even new.
Let me run some information on you guys. So this is very interesting. This article is making reference to that it was up against some competition and some comparison, which hurt this film. Also, the marketing did not. Warner Brothers apparently failed in the marketing of this. That doesn't help as well. But there's an interesting concept or another thing to add to the reason why this is possibly. The reason why we also didn't get a sequel, guys, is that The Losers stars were on the rise too. So Chris Evans in 2009 had Push, 2010 Scott Pilgrim. The year after this, 2010, like he's probably filming Captain America while this film is in the theaters and being promoted. And then, of course, in 2012, he does Avengers. Zoe Saldaña had a really good 2009 before this movie came out with Avatar and Star Trek. She co-starred with Idris Elba in Takers, which came out in 2010. Then she does Columbiana in 2011 and Guardians of the Galaxy in 2014. Now, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, he did Watchmen in 2009, the year before. He's been consistently popular on Grey's Anatomy between 2006 and 2009. In 2012, he did Red Dawn reboot and the TV show Magic City in 2012. And then he doesn't join Walking Dead as Negan until 2016. Idris Elba, Takers 2010, Thor 2011, Prometheus 2012, Pacific Rim 2013. These guys are all making a comment here. Kyle, your thoughts on this?
Well, I want to also add to this that the behind the scenes, there is a lot of names that we know. Peter Berg was a producer on this film. He was supposed to direct it, but he instead left so he could direct Hancock. You had Akiva Goldsman, who, if you're a Star Trek fan, you know exactly who that is.
Yep.
So there were some pretty powerful people behind the scenes of this, and Sylvain White, who replaced Berg as the director. He was actually developing an adaptation of Ronin at the time. So
yeah,
there were some interesting things. But I look at this. This is one of those movies that, again, is like a jumping on point for a lot of these actors. Like Lacey was saying, you might know them from this, but have you seen them in this? I think going in, and we had this discussion, Kevin, before we started, I think Zoe Saldaña was probably the biggest star just based off of Avatar and Star Trek. I would say Evans was probably next because people knew him from Push and Scott Pilgrim, and he had already been announced as Captain America, so people were paying
and of course
attention
the Fantastic Four films.
Yeah. I'm going to say Jeffrey Dean
and
Morgan
not another
next
teen
because-
movie.
Yeah, that too. And I'm always a personal fan of Sunshine, but that's a whole different thing. Jeffrey Dean Morgan was really coming off a high on Watchmen and his run on Grey's Anatomy. Most people liked him in Red Dawn, and then obviously getting uber successful with playing Negan in Walking Dead. But and then you have Idris Elba, who I put in the kind of the fourth position of these main people, because he really there was this, but I really don't think he started taking off until Thor and Prometheus, and then Pacific Rim. We will prevent the apocalypse happens, and he's just on the map for that speech.
All right, so Lacey, I want to get your thoughts on this, because I think trying to get a sequel with this original cast back is I think almost impossible at this time, that some people would say, because everyone's rise to stardom and the heavy paychecks that some of these people are going to command.
I agree with that. I will say that I think that everybody kind of left out the supernatural of it all with Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I would put him as the second tier. I would put him, neck and neck.
That was a reoccurring role for a long time. You're right. Yeah,
that's why I saw this movie, is because I saw that he was in this movie.
Interesting.
So, Grey's Anatomy, he had like 4 episodes over the course of, I think, or 5 episodes over the course of like several years.
No, he had close to 20 episodes. I looked.
Right.
Like 20 something episodes. Yeah.
But I think he was so it was a lot of flashbacks. Anyway.
Yeah.
So he had Weeds, he had Supernatural, and then Watchmen was kind of his big, like, first, like, kind of major film. I think once you get into Negan, and once you get into Evans with Captain America, I mean, look, you've got half the cast is MCU.
Yeah.
There's nothing to do about that.
So there was Kyle and I were discussing before, and Kyle mentioned it too. Like, if this movie was they changed the release date of this film a few times. They pushed it forward, pushed it back. I think they were intent on getting it out in 2010. But I wonder, though, if they did wait till like after Captain America came out, if they did push it back a year, 2 at the most, would it had made a lot more money? And in this case, would they have been willing to spend more money on salaries for a sequel? That's another question to be put in there as well. It's the big what if, because this cast is phenomenal.
If they had pulled it and waited 2 years and pulled a Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you would have actually had they would have made the money to afford those salaries to come back for the sequel.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the timing is everything.
Well, I got some reviews here for you guys. Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 48% rating with an average score of 5.2 out of 10 based on 168 reviews. The critical consensus reads, "The Losers is loud, fast, and unrelentingly violent, but also is funny and well acted, which will make all the difference for some action fans. Philip O'Neill of The Guardian gave it 3 out of 5. He notes the similarities to the A-Team and criticized the film for being a full of action movie cliches. He praised the film for a lighter comedic touches and described it as big, dumb fun overall. His colleague, Philip French of The Observer, described the film as being an A-Team territory, with the action sequences being well enough put together, but that was all done far better in Walter Hill's Extreme Prejudice. I do like to call out to that movie. And then director Quentin Tarantino offered a positive reaction to the film, calling it dumb fun. So you guys see there are some comparisons here to obviously the A-Team and some reviews that are pretty much the same. Not fair, in my opinion, obviously, of my fellow losers here, right?
Again, this is timing. It came out too close to the A-Team, and I think more people were familiar with the A-Team, obviously, than the losers. If this movie comes out 6 months later or 6 months before the A-Team, probably a whole different story.
Yeah. All right, guys, we got some movie trivia here for you. Satellite cradle on which Max and Wade are standing is the same one used in GoldenEye 1995. The radio telescope seen in the film is the Arecibo or Arecibo. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Arecibo.
It's
okay,
from
cool.
Contact as well.
Correct. This will be coming up later in the podcast. It's the observatory in Puerto Rico, which was built. It was the largest single aperture radio telescope in the world. Production designer Aaron Osborne and cinematographer Scott Keevan attempted to enhance the color scheme of the comics. Lee, this is kind of leaning to what you were saying earlier, where the 2 out of 3 colors were used to convey the tone of each setting. They are charted the whole movie with certain color schemes for each location in different shades as time passed. Very comic booky. Director Sylvain White was attracted by the realistic nature of the comic due to the film. Quote, what appealed to me about The Losers was that it wasn't the typical superhero with superpowers thing. It was based on real characters, realistic characters, and based in reality. A lot like a lot of the European graphic novels that I had grown up reading. And the last one we have here is in the comics, Colonel Clay is wearing a white shirt with a black suit. The only time he isn't in the suit is the beginning of the film. All right, guys, let's get into some categories here. This will be fun. All right. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to get into here is our favorite scenes and quotes, guys. And I have some options here on the video. If you're listening to this podcast, make sure that you check out the video here. But some pictures I have up here is, of course, when Zoe's character squares off the rest of the losers in the hotel room, and she's pointing a gun at Chris Evans's crotchular area. Of course, then we got Chris Evans making his scene into the building as the IT guy, and then we got the apology scene in the car, just to name a few. And I'm just going to go ahead and say my favorite 2 quotes are when Roke says, "This is not a sweet car, dog." Clay says, "It's a classic." Roke says, "Yeah, this is a classic piece of shit." Lacey, you want to start with you with some of your favorite scenes and or quotes?
Okay, so scene and quotes. The discussion about the bus. The opening scene with Jensen and Pooch when they're standing there and he's like, "Oh yeah, oh no, can you? Yeah, okay."
That's a good one.
You know how well they know each other. They've been in this so long that they finish each other's sandwiches, and so that's just one of my favorites. And then also that's right, bitches, I got a crossbow. That's fantastic. In the same scene with Zoe Saldaña where she's like, "Did I thought you said small arms were going to be a problem?" And he's like, "That was a cannon." And the whole thing with Clay saying, "How you doing?" He's like, "Well, other than being angry or confused or upset or whatever, I'm fine." And then the donut. Just lots of comical stuff. I always like the comedy for me are the most fun bits and bobs. And you got to give it to Chris Evans with the Clint Eastwood "down on your bellies or I'll make your heart stop with my mind" or whatever. That was awesome.
I think my favorite is the "oh shit, she's got a gun, it's pointing at my dick." It's pointing at my dick. Lee, I'm going to come to you. What are some of your favorite quotes and scenes, sir?
Everything involving the petunias, especially look at those inmates. Talking about a bunch of like graceful girls calling them inmates. That is amazing. I love it. When he goes apeshit on the field, I think that's absolutely amazing. I love that Chris Evans is playing a soccer mom. It's fantastic. Oh, come on, Legless Pooch is a cool name. You sound like a pirate. Your mama was a pirate. I love that. Really like just all of the weird little jokey stuff. Kind of like you were talking about with the bus. Like they're just trying to, can you? I can't. Oh yeah. Really well done. Just the way they kind of mess around. And I gotta say, when they show up at the cemetery and Chris Evans's girl kisses Cougar instead of him, like that just like I just love that he's a year away from being this big star. Yet another movie franchise where he's not getting laid. I love it. I think that's amazing.
Kyle, what are some of your favorite scenes and quotes?
Okay, first of all, Chris Evans is a comedic tour de force in this movie. Let's just be honest here. I mean, everything with him going into the IT building, from being the bike delivery driver to going up the elevator to, I need an exit. My name is Skippy. But
Angles the dangle.
Yeah, exactly. But there's a couple of other things that it's not so much scenes, but it's just how this movie works. And Lacey brought it up, the actors themselves portray knowing each other so well, and it makes it work and how they bounce off of each other.
The trust they have in each other, yeah.
Like when Evans is doing the gun thing and he knows it's Cougar behind, and I love that shot where they go through the bullet hole and you see Cougar there and he kind of tips his hat.
Yeah.
And that's great. And I'm gonna say we got to give Jason Patric some love here. That was not a throw him off the building nod.
It was great. It was to break his fingers nod.
Sorry.
But that does kind of coincide with the fact that the losers know each other so well, they can have those conversations without talking. But obviously, Jason Patric and Wade.
Lee, you had something, Lee?
Oh yeah, I was just thinking it would be great if I could have an 18-man fire team in 12 hours. An 18-man fire. Do I have to ask again? The other part and the other side of that, like, have they gotten the briefing yet? Yeah, kill him. Is that going to be a problem? Are you related to any of them? Yeah, one of them is my cousin. It's my in-laws.
My brother-in-law.
Good stuff. Well, let's dive into the cast and crew here a little bit, guys. Of course, Jeffrey Dean Morgan is Clay, Zoe Saldaña is Aisha, Chris Evans is Jensen, Idris Elba is Roke, Columbus Short is Pooch, Óscar Jaenada is Cougar, Jason Patric is Max, and of course Holt McCallany, who likes to throw people off of buildings, Wade. That is the main crew there, guys. Kyle, sum up this cast for me.
This is a absolutely wonderful cast. Again, you go back to it. One of the reasons why this movie works so well is this cast has phenomenal chemistry, and they play off of each other so well. They've got the quick banter down, especially when you're talking Jensen and Pooch, and then you add in the Cougar character, who's kind of the silent type, but when he breaks out something, it's always like perfectly timed. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is just charisma in this film, and even Idris going on is just the mystery behind him is kind of the tough guy, and the are you not, he's good. And Zoe Saldaña, I'm gonna flat out say it, this is her sexiest role ever. I'm sorry, there's just,
don't apologize, because you're right.
It's she just owns the screen when she's on the screen in this film.
Lacey, your thoughts on the cast?
This cast, I don't think I could have changed anything. I don't think I would have. I think everyone is so good. Like, I wouldn't have even switched anybody. I was so excited to see Jason Patric playing something that was a little bit more, off the cuff, because he usually goes for the dramatic and like Post Speed 2 anyway. And then, I mean, there's a reason that all of these people are doing so well. There's a reason that half of them are Marvel stars. And DC, with Jeffrey Dean Morgan playing Thomas Wayne, whatnot.
Thomas Wayne.
Yeah. So are we at the point where we're talking about people we would have added or no?
We're not quite yet there.
All right, just checking on you. I didn't want to miss it.
Lee, your thoughts on the cast?
Again, this is absolutely fantastic. I think this is. There are some actors you kind of catch when they're figuring out who they are before they become just kind of like a concept, like your Christopher Walken, your Kevin Spacey's, and I really think that Zoe Saldaña and Jeffrey Dean Morgan are really authentically the kind of actor that they would kind of later craft into a solid product. But there's just so much, you're talking about the charisma that Jeffrey Dean Morgan has. You're talking about how sexy Zoe Saldaña is, and it's like, it's not the crafted way that they later on do. It's just really, wonderfully there. And Jason Patric, I first saw him in the Lost Boys, blew my mind in Sleepers, which was, definitely a complete 180 from this kind of movie. Was bored to tears with Speed 2, just like everybody else. Anything called Speed that goes 20 miles an hour is not Speed. But I think just from the first time he opened his mouth when I was watching it in the theater, I was just laughing, not just because he was funny, but I'm like, that's Jason Patric. I think this was my first intro to Evans as really more than anything, because he's kind of background in, he's one of the how many deadly X's in Scott Pilgrim?
Scott Pilgrim, yeah.
6 or 7.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So there's not like a lot about him that was really great in that movie, and he's overshadowed by Superman at that point.
Gonna completely disagree with you there, Lee. He was fantastic and stole that movie. Scott Pilgrim.
For you, baby. But like, this is like the first time, we see like him really kind of coming out of it, being something out of character for, him. Because a lot of what he did was basically the same character from Not Another Teen Movie. He's just kind of a stuck-up weirdo jock douche. And in this one, he is the biggest nerd.
He's the techie dude. Yeah, totally.
He's Wash. He's Wash from Serenity in this. He's playing with dinosaurs in front of the American flag, which I think is amazing because, it's a precursor.
That's a good point,
I'm going to be Captain America.
I just wanted to, when it comes to Jason Patric, I thought he was fantastic in this. And, I forgot he was in Sleepers. Great film, but that's one of those, like, really awesome ensemble pieces, as this one as well. But when I think of Jason Patric, I think of this movie and I think of The Lost Boys. And it's one of those characters or one of those actors that I thought would have been a lot bigger, but I felt he really shined as the villain in this, and it was fantastic. So, Lacey, did you have a quick thing you wanted to say?
Yeah, I was going to say along the lines of, if you love him in this, have you seen him in that? Jason Patric is in a movie called Incognito. It was Rod Steiger's last film, and it was with Erin Jacob, and it's about art forgery, and it's phenomenal.
Interesting.
Okay, watch it. Cool. It's fantastic.
Incognito. All right. Mm-hmm. All right. So this is what you're looking forward to, Lacey. Cast discussion is continued here with Ocean's 11. You think we need one more? Who would you add to the cast of this? And I have a list here, guys. I'm not going to list everyone's names, but if you have the notes there, you can check it out. I have a list of the top 30 actors that were at the top of their game during this 2010 era. And I'm going to go ahead and showcase my two favorites. I felt that we needed one more female character in this movie. And at the time, 2010, Cate Blanchett, I would have picked. She was doing the new Robin Hood reboot with Russell Crowe. And then Jessica Alba here, she was doing Machete. Machete came out in 2010. And I thought either Cate Blanchett, I feel like she would have been someone kind of behind the scenes evil, maybe with Jason Patric's character or something like that. And then if we did Jessica Alba, I always thought that she could have been like the friend of Aisha type thing. And I would have loved to have seen a little flirting going on with her and maybe Jensen's character, Chris's character. I thought that would have been kind of cool. So those would be my two picks. What about you, Lacey? You have someone in mind that you would like to have seen that could have been added to this cast?
I would have thrown Charlize Theron in the mix.
Okay.
And Luke Evans. I think that both of them could have played. Either they could have gone They could have gone CIA. They could have gone losers. They could have gone bad guy. Well, I mean, technically the bad guys are the CIA since we've got two different sects of this, CIA. But they could have gone like either one of them could have played with the good guys, with the bad guys, or with Zoe Saldaña's character. So I feel like all three of both of them have the range to play any one of those three areas.
Gotcha. Kyle, Lee, you guys got something like to add to the cast?
Oh yeah, I've got the cast. If we're gonna add,
who would you add? Which person would you add?
Okay, either Minnie Driver or Jamie Gertz. Get Minnie Driver would be amazing. Kind of get the international flair. She was, fantastic. She had great chemistry with Jason Patric in Sleepers. Jamie Gertz again with Jason Patric.
You just had to say Jamie Gertz. I'm in.
Yeah. But the cast that I would add, that I think would also create a better franchise, is Denzel Washington and Mark Wahlberg's characters from Two Guns. Because that would be.
You can only pick one. You can only pick one, Lee. That's the part. That's the thing. You got to pick one.
But see, if we just
I'm bigger than you. I can pick two.
But if the losers and Two Guns are in the same universe, we could just add them to the sequel.
That's what I'm saying.
There you go. Kyle, what do you got? Anyone?
What I'm doing is I'm adding a singer, and at the end of the singer, we see Max get wherever home is, and you see him shot, and out walks Helen Mirren to take over the bad guy role.
Hey, okay.
I like that. That's good. All right, guys. The next category we have here is the fast or not so furious favorite mode of transportation in this film, and I got some here. I've got the Pinto, the gold yellow Pinto. We got Max's white helicopter. They got shot to you know what. We got the stolen army helicopter. We've got, of course, the Learjet and the bright yellow stretch Humvee limousine. Lee, what is your favorite mode of transportation in this film? Lee, can you hear us? All right. Wait till you get back. Kyle, what is your favorite mode of transportation?
Yeah, I'm back. How are we doing?
Wait. All right. You're back, Lee? Okay, go ahead. What is your favorite mode of transportation, Lee?
I'm just going to go to an old...
Lee, sorry, you are cutting out. I'm going to pull you out real quick. Check your audio there. Kyle, let's go to you.
I'm a big fan of the yellow extended Hummer, but come on. You traveled across country in a coffin.
Lacey, what about you? What is your favorite mode of transportation?
Before I say that, I just want to mention that everything that was driven in this movie was either yellow or cream or white. This is really bizarre, this photo, because you got the
done on purpose. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to like pull the Ducati out. Like, I think that was just fun, and
Okay. I did not include that in the slideshow, but I like that. That's a good one.
I know.
Okay.
I'm terribly sorry.
Kyle, what about you?
Well, yeah, like I said, the yellow Hummer, well, Ducati's always good, but like I said, you got to throw a coffin in there, because anybody who's willing to travel across the border in a coffin.
For the listeners that don't know what the coffin is, you're talking about when they actually got over the border in the coffin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
those are not real vehicles there, Kyle. So I thought you were referring to one of these vehicles that became a coffin for people. That's what I thought you meant.
I mean, most of them did.
But what I want to know, does my army helicopter come with the extremely hot EMT?
There you go.
There you go.
I'm going to go with the classic Ford beat up Pinto. I used to make fun of those when I was a kid, but man, when I still see them around today, I go, aw. Lee, are you back with us? Oh, Lee. Lee is still have.
I am.
Can you hear me? Okay. All right. Give us your answer here.
Hello. Yep. Okay. I'm just gonna go with a hot girl on a moped giving me a ride. I think that's the best mode of transportation.
Wasn't it two hot girls? I think it was.
Well, for Cougar, it was. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was for my buddy. So yeah.
All right. Okay, guys, the next category, this is a fun one here. This is the Zoolander. They look so hot right now. Favorite costume or fashion moment? And I threw some options out there. I've got, of course, Zoe Saldaña in her underwear, squaring off with the rest of the losers. Got two shout outs to Jensen here. Chris's character. He's got, of course, the soccer team. What is it? The Go Petunias pink T-shirt. I was in favor of the nerdy IT look that he did when he went to the office. And I got to tell you guys, Clay dressed up with the black suit and the open collar white shirt. I just want to tell you something real quick. This reminded me of something that my wife told me before we got married. I said, gorgeous, let's talk about what we're going to wear. And she says, well, I'm going to keep what I'm going to wear a secret. So you're going to see it on the wedding day. I said, that's fine. And I said, I have some ideas. She says, well, just think of, oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank now. Okay, I'm going to come back to it, but Clay looks really good in this though. Your guys' thoughts on your favorite moments here. Let's go with you, Lacey.
Okay, so costume wise, for fun, I'd say the Petunia shirt, or, honestly, like right before he was getting into the IT stuff, like the bike messenger outfit with the baggy, that's hilarious. But for me, it's going to be Clay. Yeah. I mean,
Kyle, what about you?
You gotta love the Petunia shirt. Chris Evans' collection of T-shirts in this movie is just great. And I'm gonna say Zoe Saldaña when she's first introduced in that dress is.
Lee, what about you? Can you hear me, Lee?
Cougar's hat, got to give props to that. That was some great wardrobe.
Yes.
The Petunia shirt, I tried to get one for the show, could not get it here in time. I was intending to wear one.
It is available online. Yeah.
TeePublic ran out. Yep, but couldn't get it to me in time. But I do have one on the way, and I will be wearing that at the gym because I'm a giant, and I really love the look I get from people when I wear stuff like that.
Nice.
The character I was trying to remember that my wife says is, she said to me, think Ray Donovan. Think the suit with the white open collar, and that's exactly what Clay pulls off here, and he looks really good in it. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Clay. That's my choice there. So all right, the Harry met Sally scene, best scene or moment between two characters, guys. That's another one of our fun new topics here. Any scene with Clay and Aisha, for me personally, I want to throw out there. But I also love the scene with Clay and Roke in the crappy car as well. That's a fun one. Lee, let's go right back to you. You have any other moments between two characters that you liked?
Honestly, Max and Wade, their interactions were always great.
Yeah.
Whether it was funny or insane. And honestly, him shooting the girl for like stepping back when the wind blew her. Like,
Yes.
dude, you're the one that made her wear heels on the beach. Like, come on, man. Like,
Kyle, what about you?
Douche.
I'm actually going with anything Pooch and Jensen, because just the play of those two off each other is so much fun. Again, this is chemistry throughout the cast, but if you're going with two characters, when it's Pooch and Jensen, I love Pooch when they all get into the van. We're not going anywhere until you guys apologize to each other.
That's a good point. Lacey, what about you?
Yeah, I think that Jensen has good charisma with everybody, but I think since Kyle already took the Jensen and Pooch thing, because the bus. I mean, come on. And the thing about cats, and not to try whatever, but the Pooch. I mean, Jensen and Aisha, when he's trying to like get to know her.
Yes.
That super cringy, like, where are you from? Northern Africa. Oh, it must have been Sandy. Do you have any hobbies? Well, when I was a child, I liked to collect human ears. It's just,
that's a good one.
That
That's a good one.
awkwardness is
I
really
dated a girl like that.
There you go.
All right, the Salt and Pepper. Let's talk about sex or best romance scenes. Now, I had mentioned before we started recording that there's really kindly only one with Zoe and, of course, Harry Dean's character. But Lacey, you said there's something else you'd like to mention?
Well, yeah, I think that, there's one like actual sex scene, but I think that the two fight scenes between Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Zoe Saldaña are very sexual in nature. There was nothing not steamy about those fights. Like, that's just
even the music that they played during those scenes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next we've got his best fight scene, guys. I threw in a few here, of course, as we mentioned. between Zoe and Mr. Clay there. Got Clay and Idris Elba, and of course the big fight scene at the dockyard and stuff. Lee, I'm gonna start with you. I'd like to get your opinion on you feel what was the best fight scene.
I really like the opening battle when they go after Fadil. I think that's it's the best way to let you know how good these guys are when things are going their way. Like you get a sense, and it sets up the rest of the fights. You even set up that Idris Elba is a knife guy. He's got these two really big, crazy knives. Like, how many more you got there? Like, that's coming in, and we set up everything that everybody's good at. We also set up like kind of the moralistic choices that Jeffrey Dean Morgan ends up taking, and it informs the rest of them. Obviously the fight with the fire is good. I think that is good storytelling, but you really set the stage with that first fight, and it does a great job of letting you know what the movie's going to be.
Lacey, what about you?
I'm going to go with the final fight with Jensen and the referee. Right, no, I would say for actual fighting, I would say Clay and Roke, like at the final fight when they figure out it's him and they're just start like, I mean, that was vicious. And then the shot where Clay is walking and the plane's coming behind him and boom, and then it was very satisfying.
Kyle?
I think the fight scene in the Mexican hotel with Clay and Zoe Saldaña is just off the charts. But I would be remiss if I also didn't mention the second scene where they find out who Zoe Saldaña's character is, and just the bullets and how like she dives into the tub and you see the bullets going through the hotel wall as they're shooting at her. Just how they did that scene was fantastic.
Good call. Yeah. Next we have you took him out with what? Your favorite weapon or inanimate object used at a weapon, or as Clarence Boddicker would say, guns, guns, guns. And I got to mention here, of course, Zoe's character, Aisha, shooting that rocket. Pretty cool. And then, of course, we've got Jensen with Chris's character with the crossbow, the handmade cannon, the handmade cannon that Pooch does. And then, of course, the nice rocket launcher that Clay uses. Let's go to you, Lee. Your favorite weapon scene?
That's like choosing my favorite kid. I don't have kids, but same kind of thing. I really do think that I Got a Crossbow Bitch is kind of a fantastic one, but really it comes down to like the two sexiest shots are Cougar with the sniper rifle doing the mine bullets thing.
Yep.
And this shot of Zoe Saldaña, and that is actually an AT-4. This is an anti-tank weapon that I got trained in a few decades ago when I was wearing green for Uncle Sam. And this is fantastic, but somehow it got loaded with a Russian RPG-7 grenade. I didn't know that was a possible thing you could do, but there's some movie magic for you.
Gotcha. Lacey, what about you? Did you take notice on this?
I mean, I feel like taking out a plane with a biker is like solid. I feel like that's a solid burn right there. Literally, actually.
Kyle?
Come on, MacGyver. Come on. Any duct tape. Duct tape is the ultimate weapon, ultimate thing in this film.
So you're talking about Pooch's handmade rocket launcher.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Come on. PVC pipe and duct tape, basically.
All right, next category we have is the Sean Bean Award for Best Death Scene. I don't know who you are, but I will find you and you will kill me. I love that meme. I got some up here, guys, that have been mentioned. Of course, we have the henchman throwing the scientists off, misinterpreting that death. And of course, mentioned earlier is Patric's character shooting the poor lady that tripped in the heels with holding the umbrella for him. Just previously mentioned too, we have, of course, I think this was a 2-for-1 here because we have bad guy henchman in the bike flying and exploding bike, which then crashes into the plane where Idris Elba's character, and then of course the explosion of the plane with the money everywhere. Let's start with you, Lee. Your favorite death scene here. Who got the best death scene?
I mean, I straight up gotta say it's The Lady on the Beach. That's just so unexpected, so out of
It's
line.
harsh.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely insane.
Lacey.
I just have to ask Lee, just because you're probably the most familiar with weapons. Just looking at the shot where Patric is shooting, like he's got the gun, it's right at his ear. Tell me
Oh,
he's
yeah.
not going to have like hearing damage from that.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
next to his
and
ear.
all of these guys would. You know, there's pretty much everything they're firing. They don't have any hearing protection on. You know, they're going full tilt boogie with automatic weapons. You know, a couple screens ago, you had Jeffrey Dean Morgan shooting a G36, and that's chambered at a 5.56 hypersonic round, and like the explosion is right here. So when you're firing full auto 3 rounds in less than a second, that just rips your eardrums open. You know, like I had, you know, I was stuffing basically popcorn in my ears back in the day, and you'd still have your ears ringing.
So Lacey, your vote for best death scene.
Oh, I'm still going for biker through the plane, but I just wanted to ask about the seems like it's just a bad idea.
Kyle.
The 2-for-1 of Wade going through the jet engine and then the bike taking out the plane. I mean, come on. That's
talk about killing 2 birds with 1 stone, basically.
And very ugly, by the way.
Yes,
because through the jet engine is not a good way to go.
True. Yeah, that's my vote as well. Okay, the Kenny Loggins or John Williams best use of music or song in a movie. In my opinion, there's only one correct answer. That's Jensen singing "Don't Stop Believin'" when he's going in the hotel. Lacey, what about you?
I think the opening scene with Black Betty, like
good.
The opening scene, like, and let's call out John Ottman here. Like the score is phenomenal, you know, and he's gone on to do like all the things, you know. I mean, just all of the things. He's phenomenal.
Lacey or Lee, you chimed in. What's your favorite moment of music in this movie?
Yeah, I still got to go with Black Betty. The "Don't Stop Believin'" is great, but it doesn't. It's sort of like, okay, I don't want to ride an elevator with this guy. But with Black Betty, you really get this. I mean, Black Betty, Bam-a-lam, and then you're on a machine gun and you're taking out bad guys, and like that's a tone.
That's a good call. The "Don't Stop Believin'" has a callback later in the movie, so I love that they bring that. Kyle, what's your thought?
It's "Don't Stop Believin'," not only for the elevator, but you got "Don't Stop Believin'" when he does the telekinesis bullets too, and of course in that callback later in the movie. But that whole scene where he's running through the building and Journey is playing is just great. And then, like I said, the callback later in the film. But the Black Betty does fit so well in that opening too.
It does. All right, next is the Fall Guy Award, guys. Best action stunt scene. Got a lot to choose from here. Kyle and I were talking about before. I love the whole helicopter with the magnet taking the armored car away scene. That's my vote. Lacey, going to go with you. What's your favorite action stunt scene?
I'm going to go with taking a biker and putting him through an airplane. Like it's
good. Yes,
it's good for all. It's good for all the topics.
Kyle,
all the awards. Yeah.
I do love that shootout scene, but I'm also going to give some credit to the scene where Jeffrey Dean Morgan dives after the detonator. Comes up with the detonator.
He did not pause 1 second. He's like, I'm in the water. Lee, what about you? Your favorite action stunt scene?
You know, I got to say the helicopter through Miami, getting all that, it was a better execution of a stunt they tried to do in Swordfish back in 2001, I want to say. It has better pacing, it has better action to it, a lot more going on. It wasn't just, hey, look, we're trying to do the Matrix camera with everything. They really got it down, and they're working at multiple levels, because like your ground level with the gunmen in the truck, then you got the losers on the ground, you got the losers in the air. They've all got drama going on, they've all got action going on. Donut, you know, can you let me fly? Like, you know, really just well executed overall. And there's just knowing how many moving pieces have to go into that to make it work. From just the industry side, exceptionally well executed. They did so much better than that Travolta movie did. And there you go.
Cool. All right. Next, we have the Star Wars Twin Suns Award, favorite filming location or set piece. And I wanted to bring the Arecibo Radio Telescope into the conversation again here, guys, because as we mentioned before, it was in Contact and, of course, famously in GoldenEye. Awesome thing there in Puerto Rico. And part of this, most of this was filmed in Puerto Rico as well. But unfortunately, guys, in 2020, it collapsed. A cable broke and it collapsed on itself. I got some pictures here of they actually caught it falling on camera, and these are the stills from it here, which is sad because it was such a cool thing. It made for a great scene in the film, funny scene as well. And I did note too that they're not going to try and rebuild it. There is another telescope there. It's a little bit smaller, but they're going to be turning into some type of learning research center. And I don't know how far along they've become, but that was my vote for a favorite filming location. Lee, what about you? What was your favorite filming location?
I got to say, really that Port of Los Angeles at the end,
yes.
really was a good way to get it set up for, they're just moving through different locations. You kind of had a sense of the geography of it. And it allowed for different types of action to happen. You have long range shooting. You've got close up knife fights. You've got just enough room for a motorcycle to run right into an airplane. I think in terms of being well used, just from a production side, again, really well used. And they used the same location for the final scene of the A-Team, and the A-Team basically just did a really bad shell game with sky cranes. It's like, how do you not follow that? Like, that's easy and stupid. Like,
Lacey, what about you? What was your favorite filming location?
I'm gonna have to agree with Lee. Once again, when you can take a biker and kill a plane, that's like whatever backdrop you have. It's
a good way to contain a movie set too, with all those containers and stuff, and use them. I remember Weapon 2 used that well, use those container scenes as well. So,
that's the thing. I love the fact that it turns into a corn maze. It's basically a corn maze, and then I really prefer the use of this. What is it? A dock pier, whatever you call it. Port of Los Angeles.
Gotcha.
To what they did with the A-Team. I was a little bit disappointed in that.
Kyle.
I agree with you. I'm a fan of the telescope. I think it makes for just an awesome visual in a film, and it works, and it's a great scene to have the villains up there. I would have loved it though if you had Wade or somebody having like maybe a little fear of heights or something, being up there just feeling a little uncomfortable.
All right, guys. The next thing is a fun one.
I got one more, if I may.
Kevin?
Oh yeah, please go ahead.
There's one more, and it just got me right in the nostalgia. When they are leaving the cockfight and they're getting street food on Mercado Street, and you see the mural that has Birdie and Grimace from the old McDonald Land guys. Like, that just made me happy to see them again. Like,
that's true. That's a good call.
I remember them.
Good call out. Yeah. All right, the next category. If you were a non-speaking extra on set, what scene would you want to be in? I threw a couple out here. I would love to have been in the Miami truck heist scene with the helicopter, or be one of the guys shooting up at the helicopter, or be with Clay and be some of those bad guys he's shooting at, or the bar scene where Clay's character is talking with Aisha. Be one of those people in the background there. Let's start with you, Lacey. What scene would you like to have been an extra in?
When Clay comes out of the water, that was a beautiful scene.
I know with the detonator in his hand.
Yeah, with the detonator. Yeah. I know there were other people in the scene. I know they were there. I didn't recognize any of it. That was a beautiful scene.
All right. Kyle.
There's a scene where Jason Patric's character is getting the phone call that they want $1 billion, and he's in like some kind of thing and the ladies are in the pool, and he's like, "No, get out. I want you to say wet." Yeah, I just wanted to be I'll be an extra in that scene.
I see where you're going at. What about you, Lee?
I would take the bar scene because I have done a lot of extra work, and the more you can lean or sit, the more the easier it is, because you will be there for hours and hours while they're getting lighting, and you will just be like, if you've got a chair and you're being an extra, that's where you want to be. There's some inside baseball for you, kids.
Yep.
There you go. Good call. Next category, the Luke and Leia kiss cringeworthy moment or any pet peeves of the film. Did you guys have any moments you're like, I don't know. I was just kind of questioning the timing of the let's let the bad guy chat with the detonator too long. Should have been shot sooner, but of course we would have had some comedic moments. I kind of questioned some of the timing with the release of the detonator and stuff like that, but I was going to let it go. Does anyone else have any pet peeves or anything like that?
I think that one of the best moments in the movie was a cringe-worthy, awkward moment, and that's when Chris Evans was trying his best to talk to with the whole collecting human ears.
That was done by design for sure. Yeah, definitely.
It was like it's the only thing that's even potentially awkward, and I think it was delightful.
Okay. Yeah. Anyone else? Kyle, Lee? No. All right.
I think.
I got one.
Okay.
Go ahead, Lee.
I was gonna say Zoe Saldaña obviously suspected that Jeffrey Dean Morgan was the one that killed her dad when she boinked him. So that's a little like, girl's got some issues there, because like.
So what you're saying is she wants some.
Oh yeah.
But have you seen Jeffrey Dean Morgan? But have you seen Jeffrey Dean Morgan?
She's got a point, guys. She's got a point. Kyle, what were you gonna say?
The accident they stage.
For the helicopter heist?
Yeah, for the helicopter heist. I don't know how believable that's really.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, next we've got think about this, guys. This is the Titanic I'm King of the World career moment. Was an actor in this movie at the top of their career, or was anything else from this movie trending, newsworthy, tabloid popular when this movie was released? Kyle, I'm going to start with you.
It's not that any of them were on that Titanic peak yet, but they were all boarding the Titanic. They were
now, when you say boarding the Titanic, you mean just for the "I'm the king of the world" moment, that they were going to die.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They
Let's
were
clarify
all
that.
They were all boarding that ship to ready to have that king of the world moment with this movie.
Lacey, anyone you think was at the top of their game? Like this was their apex?
I don't know. I mean, I think they've all done great things since then. I think that they were all like Kyle was saying, I think that they're all, I mean, if you look at them now with the, just take a look on whatever, Hollywood,
IMDb?
Stock Exchange. No, the Hollywood Stock Exchange.
Okay.
And you see their numbers. I mean, they're half of them are in multi-billions of revenue, like if their films. I mean, they've been, I think.
Well, let's look at this. Obviously, obviously the main actors, other than who played Cougar and Pooch, of the Team of the Losers, obviously have done quite well for themselves. Mm-hmm. Jason Patric, I could question if this was kind of up there. The guy that plays what's his name? Wade. Wade. Sorry, yeah. He's gone on to done quite. You've seen him a lot of stuff. But Lee, you got any comments on this? Like, who do you think was at the top of their game during this time?
I think that the king of the world moment for this has got to be Idris Elba, because he had some great stuff coming out of London. He's really known at this point for playing Stringer Bell on The Wire, which a lot of critical acclaim, but that's sort of niche. Like you don't have even like James Gandolfini didn't really break out of the mold of playing Tony Soprano, but this and Rock and Rolla, which I absolutely loved as well, really established Idris Elba as being able to do more than just that drama guy stuff, and we start to see him really get that stuff. He's going to be the one drawing naked pictures of the hot chick on the boat. He really had this, and it was 6 years before Negan for Jeffrey Dean Morgan. So I really think it's got to be Idris for this. Yeah,
I would make the argument for Zoe just because the year earlier she had the biggest movie in the world at the time with Avatar and Star Trek 2009. I think that she was at the top. And then, of course, she goes and does Colombiana, which didn't do as well as people were expecting, but she got an action role headlined right after that, too. But you could make arguments for the rest of these guys that, the main crew anyway. They did good stuff. Lacey,
I feel like if we clarify and say that they're on the top, but none of them have fallen, like they're still at the top. I mean, all of these people are still very recognizable and very, very.
Can you make that argument for the actor that played Cougar and Pooch?
Well, Cougar, the guy who played Cougar, he's done a lot of he's done a lot of Spanish films too. I mean, and matter of fact, Columbus Short was I don't know, like 4 or 5 years ago, did a film in Atlanta. I don't remember what it was.
But not as big as the rest of the cast, though. You know, so.
Sure, but I'm just saying, I
definitely.
think they were all like headed up, not headed down.
All right. Well, next, you guys got any hot takes? Is the alien nuke it from orbit hot take? And you know, I just keep thinking about if this movie was either released sooner or later, it would have been a lot bigger. I think the time that it had done, or the April 2010 really hurt it. I think Warner Brothers really dropped the ball big time here. I think that they should have probably released it earlier if they could, or later to cash in on some of the other hits, the stars that were in. Does anybody else have any hot takes on this?
I agree with what you say, Kevin. This might go down in history as one of the worst timed movies of all time that should have been successful, and I really do think timing is what killed this movie. Too close to the A team, all that stuff.
Lee,
as much as it pains me to say it, this is a perfect movie for streaming. I don't think this was ever going to get enough box office then to really recoup it. But
streaming wasn't a thing back then, though. That's.
Oh yeah, but if it had been, it was in its infancy. I mean, you had early Netflix by this point, but like if they had figured out, or if this had come out, you know, during the advent of streaming, even with a different cast, I mean, just this level, I think on streaming, this is better than Gray Man was. This is better than a lot of the other action spy movies that we've had come out. I really think this would have got a huge audience and would have gotten the respect that it deserves on a streaming platform where you can take a risk on something a little bit out in left field that didn't have necessarily the pedigree of other projects.
Good point.
I'm looking at a lot of crossover there.
Yes. Well, guys, let's talk about what if we did get a sequel. What happens the next day, or in this case, you know, a sequel or something like that, which this movie was primed for a sequel. Max gets away. They all know each other by face now. We see family members out there that could be taken advantage of or taken as hostage now, you know. So everyone is now vulnerable to a certain degree. You know, we see the Pooch having his son. We see the nieces, you know, it'd be fun to see the nieces back again playing soccer. But what would you have liked to have seen in a sequel? Lacey, start with you.
I'm still holding out hope that could happen.
Well, hold on. We're going to get to that if it were to be done. But like, what if it did come out? What would you have liked to have seen?
Well, if it came out back then versus coming out eventually, it would have been fun to see, you know, Jensen become a little league coach. Apparently he needs to become a soccer coach.
Does he might be a soccer parent, you know, we got to be careful about that.
But I feel like he's going to get more involved if he's back. Like, I feel like he's unhappy with that ref to the point where he's going to become more involved.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah. I think.
Well, I do have a picture up here that was fan made of a Losers 2 release in 2024. And of course, this came out a while ago, showing older versions of our characters in different films. You know, you see Zoe in the Lioness TV series that she did there. Anything else, Lacey, that you'd like to have seen the sequel?
Well, I mean, I feel like if we're going to talk about what would happen.
If you want to release it now, what would you do?
Well, I would say that they would have a Mr. and Mrs. Smith thing kind of going on between Jeffrey Dean Morgan, between Clay and Aisha. I think that they're still together in the off and on again, you know, love and hate relationship. I think that's going to still go. I think that Idris Elba is going to make his way. Well, wait. Yeah.
Idris is dead.
Yeah, he's gone. So, but there's going to be someone who's going to want to avenge his death. Potentially. I think that Max needs to be found. There's a lot of interesting bits and bobs that could happen now.
Yeah, I don't know how Idris would live with this fan picture here, but someone had an idea.
I was like, that's not gonna okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that's his long lost brother, twin brother. You never know.
What about you, Kyle? What would you like to see in the sequel, whether earlier or now?
I think what you would want to see, for me, what I want to see as a sequel is maybe we see Jensen and Pooch kind of gone into more of a normal lifestyle and where Aisha and Clay had been in the search for Max and they still haven't found him, and maybe there's some things there between them that haven't been unsettled. But if you're going to play this a little bit more like time has passed too, you got to bring in Michael B. Jordan. Maybe he's Idris's younger brother or something like that, and have him maybe looking out for revenge for Clay for killing his brother.
I like that. That's good. What about you, Lee? Sequel? What do you see happening?
I see Pooch getting killed and everyone trying to figure out what happened and why, and then kind of getting into the deep dark of it. Because I mean, these guys, before everything else, they were a wet work team. These are not extrajudicial, non-sanctioned black ops guys. So they're killers. They've got people that are coming after them. They've got a skill set that makes them marketable to the worst kind of people, not necessarily the best. So I think Pooch is probably the character you would feel worst about dying in this team. Jensen's kind of too dorky. It'd be like, oh, good. And you can't kill Clay because that's just the lead. And Cougar is too sexy. So it's got to be Pooch. So he goes, he goes and dies. I was like, oh no, the sexy guy's gone. Less competition for the rest of us. But like a mystery and like a hunt to find, the killer. Like, are they after all of us? Or are they just after him? They're all invested. Like this, it ends with Pooch having a kid. So like they're obviously invested in each other's lives. So this suddenly, instead of like we want to get our lives back, it's like now we got to get revenge because like the only reason like we're still existing in the world is because we stick together. And I think that would be a good one. And I think that we've already answered how Idris Elba comes back because he's the same character in Fast 9. He just has all the super nanobots. Look at me, I'm the Black Superman. I love
how you're trying to connect all these other characters that they played or other friends and stuff. I like this. I like this connective tissue.
Pretty close.
Kyle, you've been waiting to say something.
I just want to say too, Losers 2 is a required Jason Momoa film. Jason Momoa has to find his way. Like maybe he's a new member on the team or something like that. Like Rourke's replacement or something like that.
Yeah.
And Will Forte has to be like their handler.
Will Forte.
I was gonna say Bill Hader, but Will Forte is good. Yeah.
You guys are on the same plane there.
Right?
I like it.
I literally my brain is saying that.
How about Bill Hader and Will Forte together?
Right, and they're like the married couple of agents who are arguing over how things should go. Yeah. No, I think.
If they're a couple, I'm shipping that. That's definitely happening.
Right? I think that Kyle, your idea of how Aisha and Clay are still working, but Jensen and Pooch aren't, or Cougar aren't, and then Cougar dies. I mean, and then Pooch dies. I think that the two of y'all, the combination of those two, between Kyle and Lee, that's the perfect movie, because then you have the retribution, and you still have kind of like the on again, off again, and then you've got it's kind of like Red.
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing. Then you've got Helen Mirren. But
there's still for Jessica Alba and Kate Blanchett for me. I'm just saying, if you couldn't,
Gal Gadot, it's time.
It's true. All right, guys, let's go ahead and wrap this up. I want to get your final thoughts. This has been a lot of fun. We have been, of course, discussing the Losers right here, guys. I want to get your final thoughts on this film. I'm so happy that you guys came on here. Lee, let's start with you.
Love this movie. I love reviewing this movie with you losers. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I think it is a perfect couch potato movie. It belongs right up there with Expendables and Boondock Saints. I think it's great.
Awesome. Lacey.
Love the shoes, love the purse, love everything.
Kyle, final thoughts on The Losers. Loser.
I suggested this movie because to me it's one of those films that is the epitome of what this particular podcast is about, and I love this film. And it's just, I think when we look back at history, and especially when we look about who was in this film is going to always have a place in history because of that. And I'm gonna just say, don't stop believing. Hold on to that feeling.
Kyle, I'm so happy that you, when we were discussing this, like what Couch Potato Theater we're going to do, we were scheduling it before my big trip, and you're like, I need to do The Losers. And I'm like, oh yeah, I did enjoy that film. And I rewatched it when I was in Australia, actually. I was on the plane and going, oh, this is so good. I can't wait to get back to do this. So much fun. Great cast. A lot of great discussion of what could have been. I hope that they do return to this Losers idea with a new cast, maybe, or if they do a sequel, bring back a couple of them and bring in some new people. I don't know if that's a possibility, but either way, I absolutely love this. Lee, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I forgot to mention this earlier, but anytime Evans wears the green shirt, he looks like Shaggy.
He does.
Yep. 100%. Yes.
Well, you guys, thank you so much. We have been discussing, of course, The Losers here on Couch Potato Theater on the Fandom Podcast Network. My name is Kevin. You can find me, of course, on most socials under Spartan_Phoenix on X, of course, Instagram and Threads and Letterboxd. You can also find me here on the Fandom Podcast Network. Kyle, where can we find you?
You can find me with a singer in a smoky room. But you can find me, of course, anywhere on the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook. You can find me, of course, on any of our great podcasts, whether it's on YouTube or on our audio feed at fpnet.podbean.com. You can find me on Twitter at AKyleW. You can also find me at AKyleW on Discord, and you can also find me on Threads and Instagram at AKyleFandom. And if you want to, once I get it caught up, if you want to see what I've been watching on Letterboxd, you can find me on KSport16 on Letterboxd.
I keep forgetting I'm on Discord too as well at Spartan_Phoenix. Lee, where can we find you, sir?
You can find me making American Girl dolls in some weird Bolivian manufacturing plant. Otherwise, you can catch me on Facebook and Instagram at The Way of the Way. You can follow Fight Monkeys on Facebook, fightmonkeys.com. That's my stunt team just put together. We will be filming at Warner Brothers next winter, which is exciting. And then, other than that, catch me at like every weirdo film festival. I've got a film in something just about everywhere this year.
That's awesome, man. Proud of you. Lacey.
Yeah.
As always, thank you for joining us here. Where can the listeners find you?
Well, most of the time I'm with you guys on these podcasts. I am on the Facebook. I'm on X. I'm on Instagram, Threads, Discord, Letterboxd, Big Sky, Blue Sky, something Sky. I can't remember.
Blue Sky.
All right. I don't post, but I follow people and I watch things and I like memes and they're super fun and yay.
Thank you guys again for joining us. And Kyle, thank you again for suggesting The Losers. One of those films that definitely needs to be revisited by fans. And if you happen to be watching this video and or listening to this podcast and you haven't watched the movie, please do. Let us know what you think. Also follow us on YouTube, share, give a comment, let us know what you think, and reach out to us. We'd love to know what you think of The Losers. Again, my name is Kevin. This is the Fandom Podcast Network, Couch Potato Theater, celebrating The Losers. Thank you again, everybody, and we hope that you have enjoyed Couch Potato Theater, The Losers. We'll see you next.
Wine and cheap perfume.
Sing it, guys.